The following podcast contains strong language like what the actual fuck.
Scarecrow Festival is like the most important day of the year. What? Daft cow?
This is just ridiculous. What the actual fuck?
Hey, what the actual fuckers, and welcome to WTAF of This Country podcast. Now, first, here he is. Come in. Wow, who's this handsome young man? It's Neil.
Oh, that's a nice one to introduce me with.
Well,
Finally, the one I deserve.
It took 140 odd episodes, but there we go. Finally did a nice one.
I did. You did. I'm going to have to lap that one up because that'll be the one and only.
It will be. We'll be back to slagging you off next week.
Yeah.
Now, our superfan guest. Shut up, Neil. We're for crying out loud. Our superfan guest this episode is an award-winning writer. From writing for US drama Succession, to writing on the phenomenon that is Killing Eve, to writing and directing numerous plays and theatre productions. Not only that, but Martin Mucklowe once described by saying, and I quote, "She was worth a peep."
It was a tweet.
Jordan. Oh, was it a tweet?
It was a tweet. I've actually got proof. If you want it, it's there.
I assume that it's printed out and hanging above your bed. Is that where it is?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's where it is.
Well, it's lovely to chat to you, Anna.
It's lovely to be here. I was very excited, as you know, when you asked me, because definitely a super fan of the show, and really thrilled. Certified member of the Dump Gang.
Good.
Oh, brilliant. I've got a quick question. Why did he send you a tweet saying worth a peep? In what context was it?
Oh, God, I can't remember. I mean, it wasn't weird or anything.
Yeah, I was going to say, it wasn't just a random one, was it?
It wasn't unsolicited. It was definitely, I can't remember what it was. It was me doing my general gushing about the show probably on Twitter. And then maybe he just said it as a thanks for the support. You're worth a peep. No, I can't remember what it was, but it definitely wasn't an unsolicited.
He Googled, imaged you, looked at the photographs and then went, yeah, worth a peep.
It's worth a peep, yeah.
So you say that you're a super fan. When did it first come on your radar then as a TV show?
Actually, it was at the very beginning. And the only other TV show I remember experiencing like that was Red Dwarf. I still remember watching the first ever episode of Red Dwarf with my dad, which is how old I am. And I was a big fan of that for years as well. But yeah, I remember being there from the very beginning. I remember the trailer that they showed was when Curtin's talking to Kerry over and talking about when she sticks her big fat finger and presses Sporty Spice when the question is who's clearly not a Spice Girl. And I remember, and I think other people were saying the same thing at the time, is that real? Is that real? And I remember thinking, I hope it's not another one of these programs that, sort of, in the vein of Benefit Street or whatever, those sort of bullshit people, programs that, using people as, sort of human soap operas, as it were.
Yeah.
And then, and actually, it's so brilliantly done that it does take a little while. If you knew nothing about the show, it does take a little while to get that it's scripted, that it's not real. And so I watched the first one, and I was wondering whether, because you guys would know, obviously, because you've spoken to lots of people, whether it was other people had the experience that it took a little while to get into. I think it was maybe the second or third episode where I was really hooked. And it's funny because when I go back and watch Scarecrow now, I'm like, this is a classic episode. There's so many brilliant jokes and visuals and just so much great dialogue in that episode that you're like, it feels like a real classic episode. But yeah, it was the first. So I think you can really see the development on it, how well developed it was. And I think it was something they were working at for years, and as these things in TV do take a long time, don't they, to kind of get there.
So what was it that hooked you in and made you really, really like it?
Well, it's a combination of things, and it's all the sort of general stuff, which is, I think, it's a fantastic writing, fantastic acting all across the board, fantastic direction. But I think the reason I love it so much, the thing that really draws me to it, is that I went out with a lad from the West Country for 10 years, and he lived in the Forest of Dean, which isn't that far away from Northleach, really.
No.
And Gloucester is the main city, and the Forest of Dean is the village they lived in was a tiny village in the Forest of Dean. And so I spent a lot of time there over a 10-year period. When I first started going there, I was a 19-year-old girl, and I was from London, and I have to say, I was a bit sort of shallow and a bit image driven. I was a bit of a knob, actually. And I just remember like the culture shock of being in the country. You know, in the first place, just things like we ran out of fags, and because my best mate comes from the area as well, we ran out of fags, and my friend said, well, we can wait till we go into town tonight. And I was like, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning now. What are we going to do for the whole day? Or we can go and knock on all the neighbours' doors, or we can walk across those fields, and it'll take about an hour and a half to get to the petrol station. It just blew my mind. I was like, I need to be able to get things now. So it was a culture shock in terms of the landscape, etc. But also, I think the people, it was such a different attitude to life. I'm probably selling myself a bit short, but I was really fixated on how things looked, and like my experience of being in the countryside around those people just kind of blew that out of the water. And the humour as well, like the humour I really felt from this country was something I'd experienced over years. I made many, many friends there, and we split up 12 years ago. So I don't have those connections anymore, you know.
Right.
So for me, part of it felt like a little bit of going back into that world that I missed and that I felt a part of for a long time, you know.
So you felt really connected with like the steam fair episode when they're walking through the woods to try and get to the steam fair.
Yes.
It's going to take them hours to get there then.
Now I never went to a steam fair, but the big thing for a few years when I was going there and stuff was New and Onion Fair. Are you guys from around there, by the way?
We live in the town where Daisy and Charlie live. So we live about, was it 10 miles away from Northleach?
And
not even that, yeah, about 8 miles away to Northleach, and that's where they filmed the show. Yeah.
And so are you in Siren then? Is that
Yes,
where?
that's it.
Yeah. Great. So you probably know Newent. Yeah. And so there's the New and Onion Fair, which would be, I mean, I found it hilarious at the time, I still do, but literally the vegetables, you know, picking the best onions, picking the best veg, all that stuff, big family day out. And we would just get absolutely off our tits, like, and then we'd just be like, oh, I can't wait till New and Onion Fair again next year. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So all of those little things, yeah. And also just the, I mean, I used to go for weekends, so it was different for me slightly, but that sense of there not being that much to do. So you amuse yourself. And that's where I think like the let's say banter, but you know the brilliant dialogue. If you look at an episode like Oven Space, which was obviously that I think it's well known, isn't it, that they'd run out of budget, so they had to make, is the way that you fill that time with just conversation. It really reminded me of being back in Gloucester. So there's lots and lots that I could relate to and missed as well.
So we've had 3 series and a special.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite series?
Yes, I do. So let me have a think. Well, I would say it's series 3. I went to the showing at the BFI, and I remember when I went, I thought, oh, am I setting myself up for a fall here? I get really emotionally involved, particularly with comedy. It's always been a big thing for me. It's you know, obviously I work mainly in TV drama, and I've written plays which are both funny and sad and, you know, dramatic, but in terms of my comfort, in terms of the things that I turn to when I'm feeling down or whatever, it's always been comedy. So I thought, oh, if this, and you know what, they have every right to have a bum episode. Like, they have consistently just created the most incredible, hilarious episodes. The quality has been amazing. So I was like, they deserve a bum episode if they want to, you know, if they need to have one. Obviously, also it was just after Slugs had died, so you know, and I just wasn't disappointed at all. it wasn't even the atmosphere. I just thought the quality of that first episode, which is where Kerry's at the dump, isn't it? And and then we watched the second one. So I love that. And then I just thought that I don't know. I feel like I'm learning all the time as a writer. I trained as an actor, so this hasn't been my life's work. I only started writing properly about sort of 12 years ago. But to see the craft and the development and in their characters, and then to go back to driving lesson, and I think you can, sorry, I'm sort of analysing it a bit.
No, that's good.
But if you go back and you hold up driving lesson with Oven Space, they're not dissimilar in that they're really contained. But of course, then you bring in Vicar, and you get that just fucking, I can swear I forgot.
Yeah, you can.
It's fucking amazing monologue. But there's all the, just really, really beautiful. Who was I listening to talk about this? I don't know, but I thought it was interesting in that I think it might have been Charlie Cooper at some point talking about how they swear a bit less as the series go on. And I feel the same about my work. My early plays and stuff were full of swearing. It's funny how you develop, I think, as a writer. And but yeah, so I think that I love them all, but I think it's got to be season 3. And then that finale, like, do you say finale? I always get mixed up now between the American and the English way of describing it. I say seasons and finales and not fucking series and last episode. I mean, it was perfection, really, wasn't it? And yeah, I could talk about that all night. I love it.
It's interesting what you say about that. You know, they earn the fact that they could do a bum episode. When we've done our recaps, they've set such a high bar that we feel like sometimes when it's an episode that's maybe an 8. Yeah. Which would be the peak of a lot of comedy shows, or any show. It doesn't matter whether it's comedy. Because like you say, 1 minute you're laughing, the next minute you're crying, the next minute your eyes are behind your hands, wondering, oh my god, what do you next? But the point I was trying to make is that they set such a high bar that they're what you would class. I mean, I don't know. They haven't had a bum note. There are episodes that I think, me personally, are not as good as, say, something like Office Space, but they're still an 8. I mean, how hard is it to like you say, have that kind of consistency?
Well, I mean, if I was gonna pick, I don't think any of them have been a bum note. I thought that the special, I felt that it had all the elements of a brilliant episode, but stretched out over, was it an hour or 45 minutes?
About 45 minutes. That for me, it was still brilliant stuff in it, but that for me didn't work as well. But that is the closest it gets, really, for me. And I thought and this isn't something that I disliked, but something that I've been thinking about with this country is the complete lack of music. And I think it's really, really important because they offer you, they are offering you truth and laughs, and they're not, and obviously it works brilliantly in that mockumentary sort of format, but they are not influencing in any way. They are not trying to control or manipulate and obviously music has its place, but I remember, I'm such a geek, but at the end of season 2, when Kerry has to make her decision, they weirdly bring in some underscoring, and I'm like, what is this? Yeah.
You know, but I think that it had its place, like I really do. And so yeah, where were we going? I've just gone.
It's funny you say that, but is that a cheat by a writer to have that? Because I think you're right. There's some films I've seen over the last sort of 6 months that you can tell there is music saying you must cry at this moment. And and then you feel a bit cheated because it's telling you what to feel rather than just pure writing, that's what's making you feel things.
Yeah, completely. So I come from a theatre background, and we generally, well, coming up in my career, I've never really used music as an underscore, but it's always really been important in terms of transitions and moving through scenes, opening. And then I've seen quite a lot of stuff in the theatre, not recently, because obviously there is no theatre, but before that, where a constant underscore is used. Yeah, I feel a bit like, it has its place. Can you hear that? screaming baby. Sorry, I
That's okay. Neil does it all the time. Don't worry.
Yeah, I would ask, is it yours?
It is. It's my little boy. He's 2.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah, well, yeah. I feel absolutely. I mean, particularly with movies, I feel so just shortchanged when it's a map. It's telling you how to feel, and I think music can be incredibly powerful. But also the other thing about this country and not using any music, obviously it has the mockumentary, and The Office also sort of did it in their last ever episode. If you remember when Dawn and they play that Only You by Kazoo or Yazoo or something, that impacted really well, but otherwise they don't have any. That they are really there's no neat endings. I think this is what I found interesting about Harvest and about the end of Harvest is you keep thinking, is it going to end on this punchline? Is it going to end on this? And it sort of drags out a little bit, but in the way that real life does, it isn't neatly tied in a bow. And then you just have that moment where it goes to the credits and you're like, oh my God, that's it. That is it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't offer you something neat or something emotionally climactic. It's just real because life goes on,
Yeah. Especially the lives that they lead, nothing happens. And I think when we go and see them in 10 years time, I'm hoping and praying that they are just doing exactly the same, walking around, and they haven't changed one bit. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. One of my favourite bits is when GMVQ and Curtin's like, Kerry rang me at 3 a.m. and said that she's seen a badger that looks exactly like Grandad.
Yeah.
And I came running over and I thought, what am I doing with my life? There's something interesting about so the level of detail in the script and the way it's written, I always thought this is either massively improv or it's absolutely honed with an obsessive nature, because rhthmically it feels so brilliant. And I can't remember again who interview I watched, but they were saying about how it's really honed, it's really rehearsed, it's really rhythmically kind of beaten out. And I just think some of those detailed bits of dialogue and stuff are just brilliant, like the badger that looks like Grandad and stuff. Yeah.
Do you watch the show and put your writer's head on then when you're watching it, and how they came to these sort of things and dialogue?
I have a bit of a. I'm sort of I do and I don't. I mean, I understand that the world is that's their world in a lot of ways. They have. That I would only be able to write with that level of authenticity and authority about my world, which wouldn't be that funny or interesting, I don't think. Do you know what I mean? The world that I've sort of lived in and grown up in. I can totally watch and appreciate and think I can see what they've done there and massively learn from it. But I've got a bit of a weird relationship with comedy where it's, when I look at the programs I go back to again and again, the formative programs across my life, they've been basically Only Fools and Horses was my massive obsession. Alan Partridge as well, totally different, but I'm just obsessed with, he's like a beautiful monster, and the way they keep bringing back in a new format, This Country as well, but and all of my plays have been funny, most of them. But I've never written a comedy because I'm too scared, because once you say it's a comedy, it's got to be funny. If it's dramatic and if it's a drama with laughs in it, then great, a few laughs are a bonus. But I'm just working on my first sitcom now, so I'm just you've got to take the bull by the horns and actually just think. And the sitcoms I love, or the comedies I love, aren't always a laugh a minute. They're not bang, 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 bang. There's plenty to watch in this country that isn't necessarily a gag or a punchline,
So how do you find your ideas for your sitcom? I mean, I'm not going to push you to tell us what it's about, but how did you come up with the ideas for it?
No. Well, actually, interestingly enough, it is weirdly based on my life and my family's life. So I do think it's about coming from a place of like authenticity, certainly to start with, and then but I think also I feel like I'm not a writer that has great ideas. I feel like once I get a great idea given to me, or I do come up with a great idea, I can create the characters, I can create the relationships, I can do the dialogue. I love all that, but it's finding that idea. And so, you know, like there's so many things I'd love to do. A comedy set in some sort of precinct. So, you know, I think a service station would be a great place to do it, you know, on the motorway, because it's just such a weird place where people are there for so many, you know, different reasons or different walks of life. What did you ask me?
How did you get the inspiration, or the where did you get the ideas from to write a sitcom?
So I can't talk about it, but so it's the sitcom I'm working on is sort of loosely based on a situation with my family, and other stuff I've worked on, you know, have been sometimes influenced by friends, people I've had in my life. Always a lot to do with growing up. I feel you know, I'm always drawn to things that feel like they're about coming of age, you know, change, growing up, all that stuff I'm really interested in. And I think that's funny, actually, again, because I always think about Kerry and Curtin as being quite young, but I think they're meant to be mid to late 20s, aren't they?
That's what I think they must be.
I think the first time we spoke to Daisy and Charlie, I think Charlie said that they're supposed to be mid 20ish,
Yeah, sorry, my foot's gone to sleep, so I better move it before it gets beyond the point that I can do anything about it. I'll start screaming. I mean, that's different, isn't it? Because when you first watch it, you think, oh, they're probably 22, 23. And as you're getting on, you know, with it, you realise, no, they're over. And Kerry's still hanging around with the year 7s and stuff. I mean, that's the thing. I think it's the brilliance of, and the stuff that I've worked on as well with Succession, with Killing Eve. I've been really lucky because it's the thing that I love that this country does that only Fools does to a certain extent, which is it serves you up reality, sadness, all of the stuff, you know, the sad stuff in life, along with the comedy, which is life, really, isn't it? You know, that totally is our experience of life. And I feel that when we try to separate those things, and people say, you know, is your play funny or drama, funny or serious, you know? And I'll just be like, it's both. It's got to be both for me.
Well, because that is just real life, isn't it?
It's real life, yeah. And I particularly learnt that in, you know, spending time in Gloucester and being around in Gloucester. You know, my ex-boyfriend's brother died very suddenly, right in the middle of the, you know, the time that I was spending there, and also devastating memory, but so much laughter. And actually, you know, from the night that we found out it had happened and we all congregated in the house, there were still laughs, there was still, and at the time I couldn't believe it. It really blew my mind, but I understand it now. You know, it's like watched a documentary about Richard Pryor the other night, and there's this brilliant quote in it. I can't remember, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically says, you know, after everything he went through, his heart attacks and setting himself on fire and cocaine and all that, that he really truly believes there isn't a single thing in the world that you can't make funny, or you can't be funny about, you can't make a joke. And I agree, because it's how we get through, isn't it? It's how we what else is there?
No, that makes sense. So when it comes to writing for things like Succession and Killing Eve, because that's obviously not your project, you're brought in to write an episode. How does that work, or how is that? I mean, obviously it's very different to if it's something where it's your own characters, but does it take more preparation to do that, because you've got to learn about the characters? How does that work for you?
So they're both very Succession and Killing Eve were really different experiences. I got a really broad range. I was lucky because when I joined Succession, firstly, it was my first ever TV job as a writer, which is just ridiculous. Obviously, I understood how amazing the team was, but we didn't know that it was going to be such a success then, because it was brand new. And so the pilot existed. I'd seen the pilot. Jesse wrote these incredible characters, Jesse Armstrong, who I really relished writing. I loved. I don't know if you've watched it, but I loved writing Roman, Kieran Culkin's character. You know, cousin Greg and Tom. Really fantastic, brilliant characters to write. But I was there. I mean, the way that they write in the States and the way that they write here is very different. But both Killing Eve and Succession have sort of worked on a bit of an American model. I don't know if that's quite right with Killing Eve, but certainly with Succession. So we were actually in the writer's room for 5 months, which you wouldn't really get over here in the same way, but because it was HBO and stuff. So I was there from sort of 2 weeks in, I was there, and it really was, you know, talking through, creating those characters. So it was great to feel that I was a part of that, actually. So by the time I came to write my episode, which was sort of at the end of the 5 months, I actually felt I had quite a good handle on who these characters were. Although, having said that, it's not my world. It's not my area of expertise, you know. And so I always felt like, oh my God, what am I doing here? But you need like a varied people. And I was interested in, you know, what it was like to be the child of incredibly rich and incredibly wealthy, powerful people, and how that impacted the way you grow up. I mean, all that stuff's really fascinating to me. Killing Eve, completely other end of the spectrum. I joined season 3. There was a massive amount of expectation. There are characters I've never known fans. I mean, not my fans. I've never known fans of a show to feel that they have so much ownership over those characters. You know, the way that people feel about Eve and Villanelle, it's just incredible.
But does that add more pressure then when you're do you have that in the back of your mind?
Well, you do, but the thing is, with something like Killing Eve, Suzanne Heathcote, who was the showrunner, she did just such an incredible job of just closing that door to the room and it just being us. If you let in that outside pressure, and you know, it is such a famous show, then you'll never get anywhere. You will never get anywhere. So you have to close that door and go, okay, let's play now. You know, I really believe that the ability to be playful in sort of all walks of life, but particularly when you're making and creating, whether it's theatre or TV or whatever, is the key. Basically, but we were really lucky also because those characters are really well created right from the outset, from Phoebe Waller-Bridge's first season. You know, they're really beautifully drawn and like really detailed and funny and flawed. And then, of course, you've got these incredible actors playing them. And we had each actor, apart from Sandra, who we spoke to regularly on conference calls, but we had each actor come in and see us. You know, we had Jodie and we had Kim and we had Fiona, and just incredible. I don't know why they were asking on some Facebook group yesterday, they were asking, what's something that you don't believe anyone else on this group will have done? And I said, I nearly squirted Kim Bodnia, who plays Konstantin in Killing Eve, with breast milk because he came in to see us, and I was sitting next to him. And Killing Eve company, Sid Gentle production company, were amazing. My son was 5 months old, and they paid for an office downstairs that we set up as a nursery, and I had a nanny, and she'd bring him up twice a day and I'd feed him. So I'm there next to Kim Bodnia, who's just brilliant and like really dishy and just funny, and just sort of had a little squirt and thought, oh God. but it was okay. And so, yeah, 2 different ends of the scale, you know, just to sit and talk to Fiona Shaw was just incredible. But yeah, I think we all did quite a good job of shutting out that pressure. And then, of course, it's different because as a writer, you sort of you peel off and you're doing your own things, or you know, maybe your contracts come to an end and other people still might be working on it and they're working on different episodes, and it's only really, well, it feels like only really the showrunner, unless you're an exec producer, only really the showrunner is seeing it through all the way to the end as a writer. But you know, massive learning experiences, both of those. I've been really lucky to be a part of, you know.
Yeah.
So how did you get into writing then, Anna?
I trained as an actor, and actually it's why I feel like a bit of empathy or affinity with Daisy May, because she went to RADA, and obviously she trained long after I did, but and I went to LAMDA, which is considered two of the best sort of drama schools, and I don't know if it's the same now, but it was back then. It was sort of considered, well, if you go to RADA or LAMDA, you'll be all right, you know. And it was a sort of a weird snobbery, really, but it's just not fucking true. Like, it's really not. I had such a difficult time when I left drama school, and I know, you know, Daisy didn't have a great time after leaving RADA as well. And so I tried to act, but I didn't come from a financially privileged background at all. So as soon as I got out of drama school, you know, I was working full-time and part-time to try and pay back things that I owed, bits and bobs, get myself back on my feet, start paying rent to my parents again, which I'd, you know, been lucky to live in London, live at home through drama school. And, you know, it's just a very, very tough business. I can't even imagine how actors feel now. But anyway, in a job that I did get, one of the jobs that I did get, there weren't many of them, I was working, it was like a site-specific piece in this tower block that was about to be demolished. And it was this crazy thing, because it was actually in the tower block, and there were about 5 families left in this whole tower block. And we interviewed them, and just some of the stuff that came up, I don't know why, it was something just clicked for me. I thought, I'm going to write a play about this. And so I did. And that's how I started. And I thought I always wanted to be an actor. I never wanted to be a writer. And I never really thought that I could let go of performing. And now I'm just like, oh, I totally can. And I get to the bar much earlier than all the actors, you know, all that stuff. I can totally deal with being on this side of it. And then I wrote in the wilderness for about 7 years. And then I was really lucky to win this playwriting competition, which really took my career off, and this really fortunate turn of events that then I ended up being in the Succession room. And then, having done Succession, you know, it's like anything really, isn't it? Like any job, when you've done a certain thing, then people will be interested in you for this and this and this. And so since then, I've been able to make a living out of it for about 4 years now. And that was all I ever wanted. Like, the idea of being able to make a living as a writer was really, everything to me.
I have a question for you though, Anna. Being a writer, how do you combat writer's block?
Oh, hang on.
I can't hear you.
Sorry.
Oh dear. Can you hear me?
Can you hear us now?
One sec. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you say something?
Hello.
I don't know what it is. I got these from charity shops, so maybe it's
full of earwax.
Okay, take two.
I have a question, Anna. Writer's block, how do you combat that?
Okay, I don't believe in writer's block. Only
it does exist, I'm telling you. Are
you a writer as well, are you?
Well, I've got another question to follow up with this, but sort of trying, yeah.
Yeah, oh, okay, great. You should do my workshop tomorrow. I'll tell you about it.
Okay.
No, I'm not trying to get free advertising, I promise. So the reason that I don't believe in it, don't get me wrong, I know that sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it feels like a grind, and sometimes it feels impossible and painful. But when we talk about being blocked, it's like a binary thing. You're blocked or you're not. So it means that we're looking for a key to unlock a door, and there's only one key that can unlock that door, and then that door opens and everything's okay again. The truth is that it's such like a grayscale. Do you know what I mean? And I think as a writer, there is never a point where you can't create anything. This workshop that I'm teaching tomorrow is about how to sustain your interest and your excitement in an idea over a long period of time when you might not be working on it, or it might not be being produced, etc. but all of the teaching and workshops and stuff I do, and when I work with young writers and stuff, is about how can we mix up what we do? So how can we get away from the laptop and, things like timed writing exercises, using, going out in nature or out in an urban environment, if that's more relevant, using your voice recorder rather than, I think that it kills us sitting at a laptop sometimes. I think using a whiteboard and using cards, or there's always little ways that you can get yourself out of it. And I think if you are working on a dinner party scene and you are stuck on this dinner party scene, if you keep trying to write that dinner party scene, you might find that you halt. But if you can go off and do a bit of character thought tracking, for example, what's going through this character's head, even if he's not saying it, or write a little scene about what someone does in the toilet when they go for a wee, or just anything that is not necessarily to go into the piece at the end, but anything that sort of starts your brain working around the same area but from a different angle, I think is really useful. So I am denying the existence of writer's block, but only because I think that it's a really unhelpful concept.
Right. Okay. So
Fascinating.
I've got a question for a friend that that it's when you're writing, or when this person is writing or trying to write, it's almost like they're holding back and they don't want to write everything because they want to keep it for themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah. When you say keep it for yourself or keep it for your friend's self,
yeah, thank you. Yeah.
What is it? Why? What is it about?
It's like you don't want to let the story go. So my friend has told me is that they don't want to let the story, so they don't want to write everything down because it means then the story is out for everybody to see it. They want to keep it. It's like something's holding them back.
Yeah. So you want to keep it. So because you're afraid of what people will think. Your friend wants to keep it because he's afraid of what people will think of it, or because you covet it and want it just to be yours and not to share it with the world.
Yeah, but I think it's also it's just also like within the story is you don't want to let the story. It's just really weird because the way I even talking that out now, sounds like my friend is a complete loon.
But I really, there's no normal with writing. It's such a weird. So I've only known a couple of writers in my life who sort of sit down in the evening with like a cup of tea and sit in front of the, the opening of Murder, She Wrote, just, get typing, just loving it, maybe it's always chaotic for me. It's always not late nights, but early mornings, and like listening to weird music and like walking around the room and all that stuff. That's when all the best stuff comes. So it doesn't sound mad at all.
No, I can always remember that documentary about Roald Dahl, and it shows him pottering off down to his shed, and he's got his flask of coffee, and he's got his electronic pencil sharpener, and then he just starts, and he makes it look like it's just a wonderful little thing to do, and then he's wrote all these amazing books and stuff, and you think, well, it can't be that easy, surely.
I think it's, hang on a minute. I wanted to find you this. It's probably going to be really shit now, but I wrote a stupid little poem about this once, and I was going to read it to you. It's called Stupid Little Poem I Wrote. The fluttering mind, like a hesitant moth, flies around the light bulb of an idea, unable to land for more than a moment for fear of getting burned. Let the moth land and allow his wings to burst into flames. In brackets, although then he won't have any wings, this could be a problem. But that was just a little, that's really how I feel sometimes when I'm writing, is that it's not so much about keeping the story for myself but it's about fear of letting go. Like, oh my God, what happens if I let go, It's a fucking weird thing, but it's exciting. Like it keeps you on your toes, right?
Yeah.
I think it's always interesting. But yeah, I never think it's weird. It's definitely. Doesn't sound weird.
Well, I will pass on your advice to my friend.
About the hesitant moth.
And indeed. Right. Now, it's obvious that you're a very big super fan of this country.
I am. Have you got a quiz for me?
We're going to find out how much of a super fan you are.
I feel under pressure.
Well, we're going to play Kerry or Curtain. So I'm going to give you a line of dialogue, and you need to tell me if it was Kerry or Curtain. I think you're going to do well at this. So you got 5 altogether.
I hope so.
Here's number 1. Do you know what? I'm just going to go home and think about it.
Kerry in Mandy.
Correct. 1 out of 1. Well done. Number 2.
With a bonus point for the episode.
I mean, that's very good. I mean, if you can give me the scene as well, then, you know.
Yeah, it's when it's when Mandy falls asleep.
It is. It is. You're absolutely right. Number 2. You are exactly how I remembered. It's so weird.
Rob Robinson. Curtain. To Rob Robinson in the petrol station forecourt.
Is correct. Yes, that's the Mandy episode as well. Well done.
Yes.
2 for 2.
Yeah.
Well done. Question number 3. Absolutely battered last night. Can't wait for a debrief with the lads as well.
Right. Oh, this is one of my faves because that was Curtain. And it is, I can't remember the name of the episode, but it's when he does that amazing physical comedy where he pushes the wheelbarrow up the plank, and then the plank goes up at the end. When
Absolutely
he's
right.
Working for Martin Mucklowe. Yeah.
Well done. Threatening Letters is the episode.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So that's 3 out of 3. Number 4. Yeah, so we went to the Weymouth Pavilion to go and see the summer pantomime, and Toadfish from Neighbours was playing Wishy Washy.
Oh, I feel like that's got to be Curtain. Am I wrong?
Is that your answer?
Yeah, it's Curtain. It's not, is it?
It's not. It's Kerry at the station from series 3.
The shame of it.
So 3 out of 4. Here's your last one.
Go on.
That is brilliant. Brilliant, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant.
That's Curtain. That is Curtain.
That is Curtain. What episode is it?
No, I don't know, but it is Curtain.
It is Curtain. That's Family Loyalties. That's when Kerry gives him a Dyson behind the bar to as a little softener so that he hides the Dysons. 4 out of 5. Well done.
That's very respectable.
I'm not happy, but
you're going to be led in bed tonight with those crumbs, and you're going to be thinking that's
going to be going over and over. And
you
over.
are.
Can
that's
I, as a bonus, can I show you how I got my son to say tomato?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
This has literally been like the whole time he's been speaking, I've been training him up.
A worthwhile one.
He's your own little This Country Sandbox.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, where is it? Hang on. No, I can't let myself down now. Right, hang on. Hang on.
Fantastic.
That is awesome.
That is...
Oh, and also, guess what his name is?
Curtain.
Griff.
Oh, very good.
But I am not that much of a super fan. He was very much born in advance of season 3. But it's funny because apart from Griff Rhys-Jones, that is the only other Griff I know or have heard of.
So you named him after Griff Rhys-Jones?
No, we didn't. We just really we like the name.
Yeah. That's great. That is fantastic. No, he's a lovely man. I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's a lovely man.
Right, Anna, I've got another question. And they have never ruled out that they might bring This Country back, and they may do a movie.
Oh,
so, yes or no to a movie of This Country?
Oh no, it's such a hard question. I mean, I want more, but also I would be really happy for them to stop where they have. So I talked about Only Fools and Horses being my biggest passion, really. Like that I watched, I was so obsessed with growing up. But I actually, like a purist, I don't recognise any episode after they get the money for the clock.
I completely agree.
I don't recognise it. It doesn't on my radar. Doesn't exist.
No.
Now I don't feel like Kerry and Curtain would ever do anything like that. I think it would be weird because I wonder if, and also because they've got such a strong fan base, that there would be people that really just want to watch more and more and more of them in their natural habitat doing what they do, or they're, you know, it might be, it's a bit like Alpha Papa, which I think worked well, the Alan Partridge film, but it's very different to see him in that medium. Oh God, I have to say, don't I? Yes or no?
I think so, yeah. We've asked the
yeah,
question.
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes.
So would you rather have that than, say, a Series 4?
No. I'd rather have Series 4. I think the format works incredibly. I think if they make a movie, it has to it has to have like a full plot, or I don't know. I kind of feel like everything.
It's got to sustain 90 minutes, hasn't it? So
yeah, and I think that the beauty of this country is that nothing really happens, even though loads of things happen. At the same time, nothing really happens. So I feel a bit like in the movie something would need to happen. And I think, do you know what I was thinking about is do you remember the film What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Yeah,
very much. Yeah,
beautiful film. And I think it is that film where they were like a really small kind of ruralish community, but there's a big supermarket coming there, and just everyone's suddenly like wearing the baseball caps, and people are working there, and no one's going to the local shop anymore. I feel like it would have to be maybe something like that. Like I feel like a big out of city shopping mall was built there, or I don't know, and like Curtin really bought into it, and Kerry really hated it, or something like that.
The motorways going straight through the village or something.
Yeah, or just something that's a bit like that really disturbs their way of life. I think. And I'd love to watch Kerry and Curtin in all sorts of different situations. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's perfection where we see them in their own habitat.
Absolutely. When you said What's Eating Gilbert Grape, straight away I thought of Sue and the mother
and
in
the
What's Eating.
Yeah. So I mean, that is what an amazing creation, like that character, and also that's right, because in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, she doesn't leave the house, does she? Because she's so enormously fat. I mean, that's a brilliant film. But again, it's like, even though the character's hilarious and obviously the voice is brilliant and all that, it's also like it's sad, isn't it?
It's so sad.
It's so sad, but yet the humour is threaded through it constantly. You know, the bit about us feet like two bits of spam, and him turning her over with a snow shovel and all that stuff. You never lose the humour, but it's a sad story. She doesn't ever get out of bed. And
following on from what would Kerry and Curtin be doing next, how do you feel in regards to the US remake that they're doing? Well, how do you feel? Because obviously you've worked in the American television, so you've sort of seen how it works. What do you think?
I think it's hard, isn't it? Because I remember how I reacted when they said they were going to make The Office in the US. And then actually I really like the US Office. Yeah. I find it really weird when you watch the pilot and there's some bits from the English Office in it, because after that they really they find their own thing with it. And it feels absolutely right. And this isn't a criticism of the English version at all, but it feels absolutely right that the English version stopped at 2 seasons and the American version ran and ran. I mean, I haven't seen the later seasons of it. I think that, and also Getting On is another one of my favourite comedies. I don't know if you know that. Joe Brand and Joanna Scanlon, I want to say, two brilliant actresses about the NHS and about nurses. Again, there was a US version of that was actually really good. And so I want to say like, oh no, but actually I'm just going to wait. It's about how they take the concept and make it their own, you know, and they will do that. I mean, I feel like I heard this on your show, that there's a really good team behind it.
Yeah, it's right? Paul Feig. Paul Feig is I don't think he's show running, but I know that he's definitely an executive producer. So yeah, there's a good pedigree there.
Yeah.
But like I say, you just have to wait and see. I mean, we know from talking to the fans and that a lot of them, they don't want it to be the in-betweeners, or they don't want it to be the IT crowd like the Americans have done with it, and they want again. But it's just, but then the UK version is always going to be there. It's not going to take away from that.
Yeah, it's a bit. We've got to be generous. Like if they make the US version of this country, like this sounds silly, but it's for the US. It's like they need to share. But is this country on there? It
is, yes. They haven't. I don't think they've had a special or series 3, but they've definitely had series 1 and 2 on Hulu. I think it was on.
Yes, I'm always trying to get people to watch it. Funnily enough, I don't really know what any of my Gloucester friends think about it, because don't. I mean, I think I've spoken to a couple of them. My best mate now, she lives in Myanmar now, so I don't think they can get it out there or whatever. I think it's difficult for her to get, or. Yeah, but I don't know. I think I spoke to one friend that just said, yeah, it's brilliant. It feels really real. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder if it's a bit close to home for them. Because we did the pilgrimage, me and my sister. We went and stood exactly where you are. But we actually went on holiday to the Cotswolds. And we went and we did the whole little recce of the village. And we were trying to take a selfie outside the house. And this woman came up and said, would you like me to take it? And my sister said, oh, do you get pissed off with this? And she said, no, not at all.
Yeah.
But I wonder how people do feel about the way that it represents their
I think the majority of people like it. I mean, famously Daisy said that there was one woman that would like park her Land Rover in front of the cameras and stuff, and you're always going to get that one person. I think then that was who Nan was based on. Curtin's Nan.
Who plays her? Do we know?
Well, we've said before, we think it's Tilda Swinton. I think when you think of Tilda Swinton, I can't see anybody else.
No, I think you're right.
And I don't believe in the stories. No, they're being very. We've had the director and the producer, and they both have kept stum, and people are being very quiet about it. I'm sure it'll come out sooner or later, but we've tried to find it. Yeah. But I think once you look at it, if you squint, you can sort of see.
Yes. Well, because wasn't Toni Collette was one of the options, and definitely not her.
No, I think it's because with Daisy worked with Tilda Swinton and David Copperfield. I think it just seemed obvious that it was her.
Yeah.
And she's such a good actress that she can put on a good, West Country accent. She can do anything, can't she, Tilda Swinton?
Yeah, I love the relationship between him and his nan. You get to know a bit more about it in season 3, and you see the way that he is so adverse to having Kerry stay over and stuff like that. I mean, that's something that might be somewhere to go with the movie. Is like we don't know anything about Curtin's mum, do we? At all? Is she ever mentioned?
I don't think so. No, the dad was obviously
the dad.
He had like his knees were backwards because of polio.
That's one of my. That was something else I wanted to say about it. Actually, is that Curtin's half brother is one of my favourite episodes, as is the Vicar's son, and I've never known a show so successfully bring in other artists, other actors to play, because I think if you think about the guy that plays Jacob, the Vicar's son, is such a brilliant actor. The guy who does the speech about Curtin's half brother and is sort of it's so brilliantly delivered when he says, he would say things like, have a good evening and see you tomorrow, except on Fridays when he would say, see you Monday, and then it just shows off. That's all they've got to say about him. And then King of the Nerds, is it? Those boys, those characters.
Yeah.
I just think some of my favourite episodes are ones where they've brought other people in, and usually I'm not like that. Usually I'm like, just don't want new people. I want characters I know and love. So yeah.
But you look at Arthur. Arthur's another one of those characters. I mean, and forgive me, I can't remember the actor's name, but he's a guy that has cropped up for years and years as a character actor. But he's in one episode for 2 minutes. Yes. Or the episode with Martin Mucklowe in series 3. You have Dan Greaves is at the party. You just see him for a couple of seconds. Obviously, Paul said that went on longer, but they just cut it down. And then
which party bit? Which is...
So this is what's the name of the episode? Cynthia, the Cynthia episode. Yes, when he's having his Skittles in vodka, and he's having his
yeah.
So you see Dan Greaves there, Jimmy Walker's there, but you think, oh my God, there's Dan. And he didn't have a word to say. He's just singing around and having a drink. And then you just see Sandra from a distance when Martin is giving her a snog, and
it's like a real community, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's just there for you think, oh my God, there must be more, surely, because they're a big character, but they're just part of the village. They're just just there for a second, and away they go.
Yeah, it's that amazing thing of just knowing everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. It is.
Which we don't have so much here.
No, we don't. No. That's the thing. I mean, but I think everybody knows a big Mandy. Everybody knows a Len. And I think that's what makes it universal, is the fact that everybody knows somebody in their past like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Anna, have you got anything that you're working on that you can tell us about, or is it all very, very Hollywood and very?
I can't talk about it.
Very hush hush.
No, what am I working on? Well, I'm actually working on something I'm really enjoying, working on a show called Becoming Elizabeth, which is very new territory for me because it's a period drama, which is not usually my cup of tea at all. But it's about the period just before Elizabeth I comes to the throne. And the lead writer on that is Anya Reese. And I think anything that I can read a script of a period drama and feel like I connect, that I'm interested, that it's exciting and sexy and funny. I was really drawn to that. So I've written an episode for that. I'm just got in my 5th draft, I think, today. And I've loved doing that. I've really enjoyed doing that. I'm working on a film at the moment. I don't know what you're supposed to, which is about a group of young people in Islington. I think I can say that much. Who go on this crazy adventure, and I mean, I really enjoy writing about young people. I've worked with young people for a lot of my life. I've taught acting to young people, mentored young people, and so very often my work kind of revolves around young people. I think it's fascinating to imagine what life must be like. Can you imagine going through this, but also like getting your first pubes?
Yeah. Well, I completely. That's exactly what I'm going through at the moment. I'm glad you brought that up.
Honestly, it's like, there's a global pandemic and I can't go to school and I'm sprouting hairs, and you know what I mean. I'm falling in love.
That is a typical writer's example. That is that you went for your first pubes. I find anything that uses pube as a joke funny. Like when Curtin says they're bowling like absolute pubes today.
And parsnip pubes.
Yeah, parsnip pubes. That's so funny.
I've never looked at a parsnip in the same way. Now you just can't.
But you know what? As well, I thought that was such a brilliant little bit, because I had exactly the same experience when I was growing up as Carrie did. Because growing up. Now, maybe not quite so badly, but definitely then, the women's bodies you never saw, women or people's bodies, you never saw real bodies. And then you go to the swimming pool and you're like, what the fuck is this? This is terrible. Why are these women not covering themselves up? Which is a terrible thing to say, but I think that we're a product of the media and, of what we are exposed to. But yeah, I thought that was a brilliant.
Well, it sounds like you were exposed to a lot when you were younger.
I don't know.
Oh dear, Anna, thank you so much for spending some time with us. It's been so much fun. My friend will enjoy all that advice that you gave him or her.
Yes,
will appreciate that. Thank you so much. Please stay with us for a second. Neil
I will.
Does his little bits and pieces.
Absolutely. Well, you can find us on all the social media sites under This Country Pod. You can also email us with any questions or anything you'd like to know at WTAF-thiscountry@hotmail.com, and also go to our webpage where we have all details such as the tickets for our live show at WTAFpodcast.com.
Well done, Neil. And remember, the live show is our final live show is on May the 28th, 2021. Yes, we moved it again. So hopefully then everyone will be able to sit down and link arms and hug and what a wonderful time that will be. Yes, so we will be looking in depth at the series 3 final episode, or the finale, as they say in America. We'll also be playing This Country Bingo. We'll have some special guests. It's going to be a wonderful night for us all to celebrate this country, because we haven't really had a chance to celebrate it since it finished. So go to our website. It's all the information is there for our very final show. You can also come and support the podcast, patreon.com/WTAF, and also you can buy us a coffee, ko-fi.com/WTAF to support the podcast. Oh, God dear.
Wow.
And breathe.
And breathe. Anna, thank you so much for spending some time
Thank you
with
very
us.
much, Anna.
Thank you very much, Neil.
Thank you very much, Pav.
Thank you very much, everybody, for listening, and go and get plumbed, you fuckers.
Scarecrow Festival is like the most important day of the year.
What?
Daft Cow?
This is just ridiculous. What the actual fuck?